He was supposed to be here.
Greatest decision in the world.
I didn't have enough anyway, so.
Yeah.
You're late.
Isn't another guy supposed to be here?
Right.
Yeah, but not till next month.
Well, not till next month?
Right.
He couldn't make that. First 2
Ricky,
months.
how you doing?
It's a city property. It's been vacant derelict forever. When the parking situation really is kind of worked out.
How you doing, Ricky?
All right.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, and they're going to be nice units, new. The retail part of it is nice. To me, it's a no-brainer.
These bounce houses, they don't have them in the front yards, just in the backyards, right?
In the front side.
Just keep them in the back. Yeah.
They won't be able to.
Yeah, because otherwise it gets a little bit out of
Is
hand.
that good enough?
Don't we get a permit to do this thing too?
Here in the let's see about to get everything.
Right.
Since you digitally, so you don't have to. I like the agenda.
Oh,
It's a lot of hand.
Get that.
yeah, I did. Yeah, I printed it up and had time to look it over. So she comes.
Have to deliver it. You know,
Oh, God.
this thick, you know, with all the plans. Everything digitally.
Oh, my God. You taking the car out at all?
Yeah, I took it.
God, I gotta
Yeah.
get mine out.
I went to Stone City Post. You know, I got that thing on Wednesday. I went 2 times there. I went to Rockport 1 time.
Let's call the order of the July 20th, 2017 Plan Commission.
Mr. Broderick?
Here?
Mr. Cox?
Here.
Ms. Fide?
Here.
Mr. Kella?
Here.
Mr. Moore?
Here.
Mr. Orlando?
Here.
Mr. Rustinellis?
Here.
Okay, call the first item up, please.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the first item on our agenda is A-3-17, and that is the annexation of 9.3 acres along the Des Plaines River located at 1731 through 1751 Patterson Road, classification to I-2 General Industrial Zoning, and approval of an annexation agreement. The applicant in this matter is Joliet Bulk Barge and Rail, LLC. The status is owner along with Arc Terminals Holdings, LLC. They are requesting approval of an annexation classification to I-2 General Industrial Zoning and approval of an annexation agreement to allow the continued operation of barge loading and unloading in the city. Existing zoning is I-3 Industrial, and that is in unincorporated Will County. Proposed zoning is I-2 General Industrial. Location as noted, size as noted. Existing land use is barge loading and unloading. Surrounding land use and zoning, to the north is the Des Plaines River and unincorporated Will County. To the south is industrial IT zoning. To the east is industrial IT zoning. To the west is the Des Plaines River and again unincorporated Will County. We could find no previous cases for this site. Under special information, the petitioner is requesting annexation, zoning, and approval of an annexation agreement in order to continue a barge loading and unloading operation within the city of Joliet. There is currently a conveyor-built system in place for the unloading of road salt, which is then transported to the Center Point Industrial Park to the east, which is currently in the city. A future pipeline will be installed adjacent to the existing conveyor for transport of liquid hydrocarbon products to and from the marine vessels. Incoming liquids will be piped into train tankers, trucks, and further piped through existing systems at the Joliet Bulk Barge and Rail site, which is at the northeast corner of Laraway Road and Patterson Road. The operation currently employs 17 workers with an additional 24 employees who could be hired in the future with the new pipeline operation. New dock platforms for 4 barges could be installed in the future. The petitioner has previously obtained air permits for the existing conveyor system and dock from the Army Corps of Engineers. The Coast Guard will provide final approval of the operation after construction of the pipeline has been completed. Building permits and a certificate of occupancy will also be provided by the City of Joliet. City water and sewer is not available to the site, but is not necessary for the existing and proposed operation. Detachment fees have been paid for East Joliet Fire District in the amount of $1,694. The property in question did not reside within a library district and therefore is not required to pay the library detachment fee. The Community Design Review Board met on July 6. Minutes of that meeting are available, and that concludes the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. May we have the petitioner, please? Your mic wasn't on. We could hear you, but, maybe not at home.
I hear him.
Michael Hanson, attorney, Kavanaugh, Grumley, Gorbel, on behalf of the petitioner. We agree with the staff report and would ask for recommendation and approval.
Thank you. Is there any questions on the commission?
Yeah, I have a
Yes, sir,
couple
Devin.
questions for you. This is
Excuse me, I forgot to introduce, we have Doug Haddock, the terminal manager for ARC Terminals, Amber Russell, business development manager, here with me today.
okay.
Nice to meet you.
The question I have is this the old property where Blacks and Chemical used to be, or is it across the street, or where in relation?
Blocks and Chemical is further to the southwest, excuse me.
Oh, southwest. So this would be closer to the Brandon Road area then, right?
Basically,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay. And how long have they been in operation there already, the barge terminal?
Well, ARC Terminals purchased this property 3 years ago, I believe, essentially.
You've been operating for about 3 years?
No, there's really haven't been any operations on this property per se. They're going to commence operations with this annexation. That's what they're going to be doing.
Okay. All right, I got you. And you say you don't need city water and sewer there?
No, there is no city water and sewer, and there's none needed because of the type of use they're going to be
Okay.
undertaking.
Well, you got 17 employees there.
No, not on this site. They own further property to the southeast, okay, where they have their plant
you.
operation.
Okay.
That's where they have the employees.
Okay. And then also, I had another question about the a pipeline. You said that they're eventually going to put a pipeline in. Is this a pipeline going to be above ground or underground?
Above ground.
Above ground pipeline and pipe right to the trucks then, or?
Right.
Okay. Okay. That's only the answer to all
good.
my questions.
I got one. Who's gonna, for updated inspections of this, is it gonna be the Army Corps of Engineers, the Coast Guard, or the city?
Well, for any city matters, it's the city. It's the Coast Guard, right, as far as general operations on the property.
So once the final.
Amber, come on up here and use the microphone.
Once the final dock is built and it has been approved for operation, the Coast Guard will actually come out and do their final inspections before we would commence any actual liquid movements or real operation after testing it.
Do they have annual inspections to make sure everything's safe and that?
The Coast Guard?
Yeah,
Absolutely,
okay.
yes.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Okay, hearing none, then a recommendation, or I shouldn't say, the motion, there we go, thank you, is in order for A-3-17.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Cox?
Yes.
Ms. Fide?
Yes.
Mr. Kella?
Yes.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Orlando?
Aye.
Mr. Roosnellis?
Aye.
Mr. Broderick?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Michael.
Next item on the agenda is V-5-17, and that is the vacation of a 24-foot by 138.3-foot portion of an existing alley south of 1206 Arthur Avenue. The applicant in this matter is Maria de la Luz Ocaña. Status is the owner. Requested action, approval of an alley vacation to allow expansion of private property. Existing zoning is R2, single-family residential. Location of the subject alley is south of 1206 Arthur Avenue. The size of the the proposed vacation is 3,320 square feet. Existing land use is public right-of-way. Surrounding land use and zoning to the north is single-family R2. To the south is commercial B3. To the east is single-family residential R2. To the west is single-family residential R2 as well. We could find no previous cases for this particular alley. Under special information, the petitioner wishes to vacate an existing gravel alley adjacent to the south of her property in order to use the expanded yard space for a garden. According to the petitioner, the vacation of the alley will help alleviate unwanted pedestrian activity in the area. The alley runs east-west between Arthur Avenue and Dora Avenue and does not provide access to any private driveways. The neighboring property owners are in favor of the alley vacation. The city's public works and public utilities departments are not opposed to the alley vacation. A public utility easement will be retained over the entire portion of the alley to protect underground and overhead utilities. Community Design Review Board met on July 6th. Meetings of that meeting are available, and that concludes the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. May you have the petitioner? Oh, you're right here. Give your name and address, please.
My name is Irving Gallegos. I came here on behalf of Maria O'Connor from 1206 Arthur Avenue.
Okay.
I moved to.
Anything to add?
That's it.
You covered it all. I have a question, Kendall. On the vacation, did the people to the south sign off that they didn't want to buy it so that, do we know?
Looking for the sign-off. Yes. We have a sign-off from 1061, I believe, Woodruff Road, included in the packet.
Do they own both properties? I mean, so that they can buy the whole thing, because there's two of them there.
Yes, this would be the,
Woodruff Road address.
the property to the south.
Okay. So then they can buy the whole thing free and clear then with no problem? Okay.
Correct, yes.
All right. And then we're going to keep easements for the utilities?
Yes.
All right. Any other questions from the commission?
Yeah, I've got a couple. You stated on here that, are you having a problem with people in the alley?
Well, it's not much, more so the people.
Could you talk up into that mic?
Because of gang activity in the area, my house has sometimes suffered. Sometimes we get gunshots I have a picture of my gutter, and it's got a couple gunshots, holes there. But other than that, really it's just pedestrian traffic walking by, and there's not a lot of actual traffic going through. So other than that, I feel like it's just collecting mosquitoes over the summer.
Okay. Has the city done a calls for service to see what kind of problems we've had there, Kendall? Have we checked with the fire department and the police department to see how much they use that alley and have access in that neighborhood to get behind those houses and between them?
We typically do not do calls of service for this type of request. We rely on the utility companies, which are pretty the entities that are mostly affected with regards to utilities. I do not believe we have anything from JPD on their use of the alley.
Is that something we could check on?
We can.
Yes. Check with the patrol units for that area? And what the fire department thinks it would give access to get to a fire in any of those houses along that area?
Well, if I'm looking at the map now, and it appears that Arthur and Dora, as well as Woodruff, provide pretty good circulation.
There's two streets close together, so I don't think that'd be a big issue.
Yeah, I don't think public safety access would be a problem here with closing that alley off.
I see. Over here it would be. Anything else?
Yeah, I have one question. You say you're going to put a fence up on this area?
I want to, yes.
You want to? Okay, now, in order to put a fence up, you're going to have some access for the utility companies to get in there, like AT&T, Comcast, if there's Comcast there, and
That's still an easement.
you're going to have some sort of access for them to get in and out, because that's going to run the whole length of the block, right? From Arthur Avenue to Dora?
I'm sure if it's needed, we can put it on. I don't necessarily understand your question. If there's something that needs to be provided for them, I mean, I'm sure we can work with them to do that. Or
What I mean is the telephone poles going to be inside the fence area that you're purchasing, this area that you want? Is the fence poles inside that area, or is it going to be on the outside? You know,
South side.
as I understand it, it was going to be on the outside, and it's about, it's 24 feet
On the south
you-
side.
from the line.
He's going to be, where's he going to
That'd be
fence it?
north side, yeah.
okay, so it'll be closer to the, it won't be on the grassy, the fence won't be on the grassy area where the telephone poles are, it would be on the gravel portion, right?
Right.
Okay, well, that way they'd have access, that's all. I was wondering if make sure they have access to get in there. Also, Kendall, I have another question too, is there any underground old sewers that are there that, sometimes a lot of people tapped into sewers that they weren't supposed to back in the day? Do you know of any?
Yeah, we got a clearance letter from Public Works that we have no utilities in that alley.
No old sewers or water lines, huh?
Right.
Okay.
Will this affect his tax base?
That's a good question. It's always hard for us to answer that. It's the tax assessor, when they do their assessment, will take that into consideration. But it's hard to say what it would be.
Any other questions? Any questions from the audience? Yes, sir. Step up to the mic, please. Give your name and address.
My name is Sam White. I stay at 1206 Dora. I've been staying up for about 30 years. I had talked to the police officer years ago, and behind my house, they was talking about trying to close it off because the gangbang was running through there shooting and doing this and that. Okay, so we had a meeting, but Miss Ray had passed away when they was talking about doing it. But I think it'd be a good thing to close it off and put a fence there, and if they still need to get anywhere over there behind my house, it goes straight through and still be able to do whatever public service need to do. So.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, then we need a motion on V-5-17, please.
I make a motion.
So, second.
Call the roll, please.
Ms. Fide?
Yay.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Orlando?
Aye.
Mr. Roussenelis?
Aye.
Mr. Broderick?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Mr. Kella?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is ZO-1-17, and that is a zoning ordinance amendment to Article 5, Section 47-5.3, Paragraph K, amending Section 47-5.3, Paragraph K, adding inflatable bounce houses as prohibited recreational structures and playground equipment in a required front yard. Under general information, at the Land Use and Legislative Committee meeting held on May 16th of this year, there was discussion about the need to regulate the location and duration of inflatable bounce houses in residential districts. Upon further research, it was determined that Section 47-5.3K of the zoning ordinance, as highlighted below, could be amended to further define the types of recreational structures and playground equipment that would not be permitted in the front yard or corner side yard. It is the staff's opinion that there is no need for a time limit regulation, given that these items are only permitted in the rear yard, and there is no such time limit regulation for trampolines or other such playground equipment. The proposed language amendment under 47-5.3 would be for permitted accessory uses as highlighted. The following uses shall be considered as permitted accessory uses, provided that such uses shall not be located in a required front yard, required side yard of a corner lot, or in a required front yard for a through lot, or within a recorded easement. And subsection K reads recreational structures and playground equipment, including trampolines, and we have added inflatable bounce houses. Under Land Use and Legislative Committee, the City Council Land Use and Legislative Committee received a preview of the proposed zoning ordinance amendment at their meeting held on May 16th. At its June 6th meeting, the committee voted to recommend approval of the amendment as proposed. Minutes of that meeting are available. The Community Design Review Board met on July 6th. There was no discussion at that meeting regarding this particular item. And that concludes the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. On these bounce houses, are we talking about permanent bounce houses or ones that people rent?
Ones that people rent.
They rent them for a party, they still can't put them in their front. They have to put them in the rear?
They have to be in the rear yard.
Okay, thank you.
Also, Kendall, at this time, do they have to obtain a permit in order to have the bounce house?
There's no city permit required.
There's no city permits?
No.
Not even for the backyard?
Not even for the backyard.
Considered like a trampoline. If you're the owner of a trampoline, you can have in your backyard.
Correct.
So this ordinance here now wants to eliminate any front yard or corner side lot trampoline? Or I mean,
bounce house, yes.
Was there trouble before bounce houses? Is that the reason why this came up? Did they have problems before?
Yeah, we were receiving complaints regarding bounce houses in front yards. Left for indeterminate amounts of time, and there was concern that there was no regulation of the bounce houses. So instead of regulating the time, we wanted to just move these to the rear yards. They can exist there as trampolines do or any other playground equipment. And we think that that will resolve the issue.
Well, even without a permit now? You can
even without a permit, yes.
Any other questions from the commission? Okay, hearing none, the motion's in order for ZO-1-17.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Orlando?
Aye.
Mr. Roosevelt?
Aye.
Mr. Broderick?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Ms. Fide?
Nay.
Mr. Kellett?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is ZO-2-17, and that is a zoning ordinance amendment to Article 7, Section 47-17.21, subsection 3H, scope of regulations, adding prohibition of window outline lighting. Under general information, at the Land Use and Legislative Committee meeting held on May 16th of this year, there was a discussion about the need to regulate window trim lighting in the commercial and industrial districts. The city's legal department has drafted the attached ordinance for consideration. Land Use and Legislative Committee, the City Council Land Use and Legislative Committee received a preview of the proposed zoning ordinance amendment at their meeting held on May 16, 2017. At its June 6 meeting, the committee voted to recommend approval of the amendment as currently proposed. Minutes of that meeting are available. Community Design Review Board met on July 6. That should be of 2017. There was no discussion regarding this particular item at that meeting. And I believe that concludes the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions from the commission?
Yes. Do we have somebody can explain to us why we don't want to let somebody's business have a light around the window?
Again, this is complaint driven. We have had numerous discussions at the Land Use and Legislative Committee level regarding the use of this type of lighting. We've received complaints from community members that there is an abundance of this type of lighting. Some folks see this as unattractive, and the ordinance was drafted so that we could eliminate this type of display.
Was there a safety factor involved in this?
No.
Seems like an infringement quite a bit.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions also here. I strongly oppose this, and I'm totally against this because we're starting to handcuff all the small business owners. This is the only way that they can sometimes advertise what products they're selling, like specials and that in their windows. You put just a sign in the window, people ride past, they don't really see it. If you have some sort of an attraction, it'll get your interest there, and they're just trying to generate more revenue. I don't think the city would like to have them go out of business. I mean, small businesses, they have, anymore now, they have to get permission for every little thing they do. There's too many do's and don'ts, and I don't feel that they should be handcuffed and to try to generate more revenue. You know, the business climate is very competitive right now, and I think every small business is trying to generate more revenue because that's their paycheck. Just like somebody goes to work, they punch a clock, they get a paycheck. The people that have a small business, the only way they can obtain a paycheck is by more retail business. So I think they need more advertisement. And you also have, there are signs now, like I just went down Larkin Avenue today. There's signs out there, Automatic for one, Brown's Chicken. They have electronic billboards. JCA, they have an electronic billboard. Different announcements right across the street. Walgreens, they have electronic billboard. They have their specials for pop, milk, different items. I think you're handcuffing the small business owner, and a lot of businesses are set back. The buildings are set back, and when you fly down Jefferson Street, Larkin Avenue, whatever area they're in, it's hard to see these. I think the people do need a little advertisement, a little acknowledgement that their business is there to survive.
Mr. Jackson, are the majority of the complaints from residents or commercial? Do we know where the type of complaint, where that's originating from?
I think these are general complaints coming from residents who are concerned about the look of our commercial corridors.
Yes, sir.
The signage issue with the LED signs, that's another complaint that we've been receiving. The complaints are along the lines of there are too many of these types of displays. They're bordering on the garish as opposed to the tasteful. I think from staff's perspective, we like to balance. We are supporters, of course, of commerce and commercial activity in the city, but at the same time, we want to make sure that our corridors are attractive. And so there is a fine balance and the need for the businesses to advertise themselves, but sometimes it kind of crosses the line, and that's where we need to have regulation.
I have a question. But the regulations now, you know, there's a lot of regulations put on a business owner for signage, especially on the outside signs. It has to be so far set back from the street, the width, the height. And then also, a lot of times they have restrictions on signs that are put on the building itself. They can't have signs there. So you're kind of limiting them to what they have to do. And I don't think we should we have restrictions now for the outside of the property. I don't think that we should have restrictions on the inside of their property, because now we're dictating to them how they should run their business. And that's like I said, that's their livelihood, and they pay taxes or rent these buildings, so they should have at least some leeway inside and have the right to do what they want to do on the inside of their building.
Question relative to if the motion is made and approved, would this grandfather in existing lighting, Mr. Jackson, or would it just be future permits? How would that work? Yeah,
very good question. And no, it would not grandfather in existing lighting. This would be retroactive.
Okay.
And some of it would be complaint driven. Some of it would be when we have staff in the field and they notice it, then there would be a courtesy acknowledgement to the business owner that it's no longer allowed, and it would have to be removed, or then we go into enforcement.
Were any of the business owners notified individually, or as opposed to just the publication?
No, there were no individual. There was no individual outreach to businesses.
Thank you.
I have another question. Now, these lights on you're talking about the LED lights around the perimeter of a window on the business.
Correct.
Now, most of these lights are turned off after hours, aren't they?
I have actually seen lights that remain on even after hours.
Okay.
I'm not saying that that's all of them, but I have seen some that are on after hours.
Because there's some flashing lights right now on different businesses. They're small lights, which I don't think hampers anybody's vision than anything else. You have a lot of open signs that flash. They spell the word open. They blink on and off.
Right.
I mean, you have to attract some business somehow.
That particular case wouldn't be restricted though, would it?
No.
It would just the exterior
It's just
outline of the windows.
the lighting that is in the window frame that really doesn't advertise the business or any product. It's just there to, I guess, attract attention.
My only concern is that, especially, I mean, it says here, flashing, intermittent. That to me seems like a distraction. Like I know over on Larkin, a lot of the cell phone places, they're vibrant flashing, and as you drive, I mean, you could get in a fender bender, if it's too distracting. So.
No matter what, Mr. Commissioner, I appreciate your comments, but I think this type of technology will only increase rather than decrease. So in terms of just further conversation, I don't know how you want to proceed, Mr. Chairman, but perhaps we would like to table this for further conversation as a consideration.
So we're open to a motion on ZEO-2-17, either a motion or a table. Any recommendations there?
Motion to table.
I could second that.
Okay, call the vote, please.
Mr. Orlando?
Aye.
Mr. Rousseau-Ellis?
Aye.
Mr. Broderick?
Aye.
Mr. Cox?
Aye.
Ms. Fide?
Aye.
Mr. Moore?
Aye.
Mr. Kella?
Aye.
Okay, and then with the tabling, would you like staff to come back with clarification on anything, or?
Yeah, I think we need a little more definition of, how this is going to work. If we eliminate this, then like the Commissioner says, then they're losing, one of their ways to get people to notice them. Plus, it is inside the building, not outside. You can see from outside, then, are we regulating inside the buildings plus outside the buildings now? So.
Also maybe a public notification to business owners that they may come and address this if they're not aware of it, because like I say, I know people in Essington that have businesses that are set back, and one of the big complaints he's got is I can't advertise because as much as somebody that's right up close to the highway, because they have the parking lot in front of it. So it's really a detriment to their business.
Is there a way for us to find specific complaints to see who, situations of where it's focused at? Is it because it's a safety issue, or they just feel it's gaudy, or is there any specific complaints that we can see?
Well, there's no.
Or we could check that out ourselves.
Yeah, I think the best response to that from staff is just drive down any commercial corridor. Yeah. You just mentioned a good instance, the telecom companies, the cell phone companies. They are notorious for that type of display. So I would point you to those folks to take a look at what we're attempting to deal with here.
None of them are brought up under a safety issue, public safety issue, though?
No.
Okay.
And Mr. Jackson, if we could get some pictures clearly of
that's
what we're actually looking at,
okay.
Type and amount.
Yes.
Because I think we're talking about corridors, maybe Larkin, Jefferson Street.
Okay,
so
good.
We can have a pretty good understanding of what both the commercial as well as the residents are concerning.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Good direction. Thank you. Okay. Mr. Chairman, the next item on the agenda is ZO-3-17, and that is a zoning ordinance amendment to Article 7, Section 47-17.21, subsection 4, definition of Category 1 political signs, and that would be removing language which is precluded by the Illinois state statute. Under general information, at the City Council Land Use and Legislative Committee meeting held on May 16th of this year, the city's corporation council indicated that there are always calls coming into City Hall about political signs, especially during the recent election. The legal department reviewed the language in the zoning ordinance, and there is a provision limiting the calendar time for these types of signs that can be displayed. That restriction is unconstitutional due to governments being not able to restrict when these signs can be displayed. The city zoning ordinance should be consistent with the U.S. Constitution. The legal department has drafted the attached ordinance for consideration under Land Use and Legislative Committee. The City Council Land Use and Legislative Committee received the proposed zoning ordinance amendment at their meeting held on May 16th of this year. The committee voted to recommend approval of the amendment as proposed. Minutes of that meeting are available. There was a Community Design Review Board meeting on July 6th, and again, that should be 2017. There was no discussion regarding this particular item on that agenda, and that concludes the staff report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. So now we're saying that we're restricting the size, but not when they can put them up?
Correct.
So they can put them up anytime now, huh?
Yes, they can.
They could put one in right now,
Right now, they can put one out.
based upon Illinois Constitution.
Right. Yeah. So our zoning ordinance was in conflict with that.
Conflict
We
with
need
that?
to-
So they can leave it up, they can put it up now, and if they're running for election in 2 years, they could start advertising right now.
According to, yes.
Well, then
the
how about
state's-
after the election? Is there any time limit to take them down, or can they leave them up then too?
I think they can leave them up indefinitely.
So there's no time limit before or after now?
Right.
Okay.
This is almost a little applicable to the last item on the agenda.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, motion's in order for ZO-3-17.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please, or call the roll, please.
Mr. Roosevelt.
Aye.
Mr. Broderick.
Aye.
Mr. Cox.
Aye.
Ms. Fide.
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Orlando.
Reluctantly, but I'll vote aye.
Mr. Kella.
Yes, aye.
Okay, we have no study session today. Approval of the June 15th, 2017 Plan Commission minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Broderick.
Aye.
Mr. Cox.
Aye.
Ms. Fide.
Aye.
Mr. Moore.
Aye.
Mr. Orlando.
Aye.
Mr. Roosevelt.
Aye.
Mr. Kella.
Aye.
We have no old or new business for final action, not for final action or recommendation. There is one item that staff wanted to bring up for the Commission's consideration. A great deal of the items that you review are sort of very detailed, very technical, especially when it gets to land development. We're undergoing a renaissance, so to speak, in industrial growth. And one of the things that staff has been talking about doing is giving you all a tour, particularly of our industrial area, so that you can actually see the types of things that you're voting on, you're considering. It's one thing to look at a staff report and look at a map and hear me drone on about the development, but it's entirely different to sort of get out there and get a sense for the types of things that you're charged to take a look at. So that's for your consideration. We were thinking about maybe doing it in groups of 2 so that we don't run into an Open Meetings Act violation, at your convenience. And we would take you on a tour, and we would have our building inspections chief along to talk about the details of the construction and answer any questions that you may have. And I think it gives you a rounder perspective of what you're looking at. So that's for your consideration, and maybe when we come back next month, you can let us know if it's something that you would be interested in doing, and we could start to schedule those tours.
Sounds good.
Okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Motion to adjourn?
So made. Move.
Second.
Okay. Everybody?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
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 Aye.